just leave the phone out there? Or can I bring it in here?
For which phone?
For the gate. No, Angela should be here soon.
I'll just leave it out there.
Okay.
People should be calling up.
Yeah. So I wonder if we could send an email out about it, because I think we get a lot of people that come in for.
Shut up.
Jeez. Dave, 833.
Yes.
It's a house. It's got a B class or a small C sitting in front of it on jacks.
Is it
hanging out in the street?
It's hanging out in the street. Brittany, is that the one that you were talking about?
No, that was C24.
Okay.
833 is Jim.
Hey.
Oh, it's Jim Roop. He parks that thing lives under his. He has like the carport thing for it.
It's not under the carport.
He must be leaving. I'll talk to him.
Well, it's hanging out. Okay. And not just a little bit. I mean, it's not blocking the street, but it could get clipped.
Who are we waiting on? Pat and Dwayne and John?
Barb.
Barb. Oh, okay.
They got 5 minutes.
I know.
Okay, we are live on YouTube, but the link hasn't gone out yet. It's going out now. So we are set up and people can probably hear us.
Oh, so we have to behave ourselves.
Try to.
Not here.
Okay, that's set up. That's set up. We have a packet of so everyone can hear us okay? You can hear Joe?
Hello?
Hi, this is John.
Hi, John.
Can you hear that okay?
Hi, how are you?
Good, sir.
Hi.
When I had it playing on there, we were getting...
Now, I'm not going to be able to see, but I should be able to hear okay.
The guy backed out and said,
That's good.
not going to take it, keep the deposit. Okay.
Just came up to listen.
Yeah. It was supposed to be gone. He was coming to
I don't
pick it
have
up.
my camera on. They don't need to look at my post.
I don't know. He's a broker, so I think he had a buyer lined up for it and whatever else, but he said, not going to do it now. Okay. Held it for a month for him. He gave me a $500 deposit. He didn't even ask for it back. He just said, no.
But probably, if it's a broker, he probably realizes you could have passed up other offers.
Yeah. Well, I definitely did. And now those people are all gone. You know, they were pretty close to his, but his was just a bit higher. So now I guess I'm not $500 off the price.
He just wants to be your car. That's all.
Yeah. I've had it for about as long as anything. I never keep a car for more than 2 years. I've had that for 2. Long enough.
I have a long air bike.
He wants to sell to somebody he doesn't know. Far, far away.
Well, look, the car is in great condition. I've never had an issue with it. I mean, it runs perfectly. It's just, for what it is, it just doesn't do anything. You know, it's moderately fast, but not fast enough. It's okay to drive on the street back and forth to work, but it's not comfortable.
Maybe Britain's got a lead foot and this will save her a couple of tickets.
Save her tickets? Oh no. That would get you a whole lot of tickets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to get pulled over doing 160 miles an hour on that thing. GPS there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're waiting on Barb and Dwayne, it looks like.
Hey, Deb,
Joe.
why'd you ask me if I was sending out the link?
Because I accidentally put your name in instead of David's.
DAVIDJOE.
I made an error.
Have we been
I made an
slamming
error.
early in the morning?
We have not been spamming. Now, come on, we're live.
Oh, I was thinking orange juice.
Of course. I was thinking tomato juice.
Oh, I see. With celery in it?
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
No one's watching us right now anyway.
Oh, see, you're
Oh, crap.
They can always rewind if they watch this later on, but.
Hi, Miss Brittany.
Hi, Deb. How are you?
Good. How's Scarlett?
Good. She's 6 months today.
Oh my God, we have to sing happy birthday.
Makes you feel old, doesn't it?
She's growing too fast.
She got a lot of teeth now?
She has one that went
Okay.
went through, and then there's another one that's on the way out. So she has like 1.5.
Oh, 1.5. Okay. Not ready for corn.
Hey, Brittany,
Yes.
don't blink. My daughter turned 37 just 2 days ago, and it feels like just yesterday she was 6 months old.
Oh,
That's so crazy.
you got that right.
Barbara.
Hey, everyone, hold on one second.
Hey, Barb.
We're still waiting on Dwayne, but
I do.
apparently my hyperlink didn't.
Hyper?
Yeah.
Didn't hypersend.
How is Indiana?
Well, today's going to be a nice day. We've got maybe high 60s coming, and the weekend's going to be up in the 80s.
Ooh. Are you open and can you go to a restaurant and stuff, or are you all still locked in?
Yeah. Yeah, we do have a lot of the restaurants opening. They're 50% capacity as far as the amount that they can allow in there. But no, as a matter of fact, I've been out to eat 3 times since I've been home.
Well, congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
We're going to Michigan if they open.
Yeah, that's kind of an iffy one, isn't it?
Well, the governor's finally separated the south part of the state from the north, so there's hope.
I got a lot of family that live in Michigan. I know what you're saying.
Joe, you own your lot up there, don't you? Aren't you allowed to go there even if it's closed?
Okay, he is resending.
Oh, can you all hear me?
He is resending.
Yes, I can hear you.
It's sent right now.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
Who's that?
Gary Schneider. Sorry, John. Yes, I do own my lot. And the way the rules sit right now, if I was only going to go there for a couple of days, I couldn't do it. You have to be there 30 days minimum.
Even if you own it?
Right now.
Wow.
Because she has everything locked down. Stay at home.
Right.
So they've had to cancel a lot of people's reservations because they were for like the weekend and so forth.
Wow.
No transient visitors at this point.
For some reason,
Dave, who are we missing?
my link is still not linking. It's sent
Okay.
again. It looks like a link in my end, and then now it shows up in the email that you have to like copy and paste it into your browser. I don't know what's going on with our Connect. I will send a third email to let everyone know.
Yeah.
Copy and
Hey,
paste.
David, I know when I came in, I clicked on the phone number that was in your email, and it came into my phone as 605 plus, and then the last 7.
No, it's not for you.
Which means,
It's the YouTube link for people to watch.
oh, I see. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know what.
I had to remove the plus in order to get that to work.
Hey,
Gary Snyder.
Oh,
Gary?
Which Gary? Gary.
I
Washburn.
thought Gary Schneider just popped in.
I see Gary Washburn.
Oh, yeah,
Wayne
Gary.
Truitt. There's no Gary Snyder.
All right. Thought someone said his name.
I thought I heard Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pat's here.
Hello.
Gary Snyder texted me and said
okay.
the link is nothing.
He
I
called
think the
me
link
and
is working
they
now,
resent
correct,
it.
Guy?
I don't
Okay,
know.
all right.
Like, you can copy and paste it in, but it still didn't show up as a hyperlink. I'm going to try a third time, but it looks good on my end before I send it, and then when I send it out, it shows up as not a link. Copy.
Hey, David, Diane says that the second email, she was able to click on the link and it worked fine.
Good.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought, but on mine it doesn't let me click this one. Let me just try one more thing to make sure this works. Just a link, okay. Click here. Well, that looks clickable again. I still don't have any viewers, but I'll be able to go back. One of these links should work for sure.
Diane said there's 19 viewers.
Oh, it just hasn't updated on my YouTube yet. Alright, people figured it out. And this one you can click, so. Alright, we're ready.
Is Dwayne on?
Dwayne is on.
Okay, excellent. Okay, we'll go ahead and kick off this Friday, May 22nd, 2020, Cypress Woods RV Resort HOA. And first of all, just to remind everyone to please silence your phones. The other thing is that since we are in the Welcome Center conference room, we do not have an American. So we won't be saying the pledge, but I feel confident that all of us would join in our pledge of allegiance to our United States and also in God, asking for God's blessings on the United States. Just also, due to time restraints, we want to make sure we keep our comments on point and that we try to limit our comments to 3 minutes so we can move ahead. So we'll go ahead and get started. May I do a verbal roll call first of all? And that way our secretary will know who is here and who is not. We have John Genovese.
Here.
Barb Burge.
Here.
Joe Regenstein.
Here.
Dwayne Truitt.
Here.
Gary Washburn.
Here.
And Pat Zollo.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. All righty. Under the financial topic, first of all, Dave, you have an update on a delinquency report for us?
Ooh, you know what? On my other computer.
Do you need this back?
No, I'll pull it up on here. Sorry.
As of last month, it was 24,000.
It's a lot less now.
If you want to move on, I'll come back to that. I'll just pull it up.
Okay, Barb, you want to go ahead and give us cash on hand and year-to-date over on the GL codes, please?
I will, Deb, but before I do, and while David's doing some research, just would like to say that our Bank United cash operating at the end of December was $343,000. End of January was $517,000. I'm rounding, okay?
Sure.
End of February was $421,000. End of March was 407,000, and the end of April is 500,000. I guess my question is, if you look at between the end of March and the end of April, April should have included our 471 times 745, that equals 351,000, that we should have added to as far as in our bank account if everybody paid their dues that month.
A lot of people pay early, so those are split between March and April.
I understand, David, but the end of February we had 421,000, and the end of March we had 407,554. Then we only increased at the end of April by 92,850.
Looks like we need to look into that. We do have prepaid though also, correct, David?
Yes, some people have prepaid, but I can pull that report. I wasn't prepared. That'll take me some time to pull that report.
Okay, well, that's fine.
I can't imagine that our prepaids are $300,000
right. Okay.
for one quarter.
Okay, so if you want to proceed on, Barb, that would be great.
Okay, what else did you want me to report on, Deb?
You're under
budget?
Right, please.
Okay, I'm just going to give you totals, all right, as far as our revenue income. Our year-to-date actual is $546,701. Our year-to-date budget is $492,888, with a variance of $53,813 over budget income. Excuse me. Okay, our expenses. Under administrative expenses, our actual year-to-date is $56,000. I'm gonna round it again. It's $56,000. Our year-to-date budget was $37,000. The difference being under $19,000. Our property insurance is $1,069 under budget. Year to date, our total property, hold on a minute, that was multi-peril insurance. Our total property was under $1,000.69 or $1,069. Our utilities, well, in my printout I don't have the total.
2,066.
Thank you. It is on my next page. Thanks, Pat. The difference in our utilities is we are under $2,000 in our utilities. Our contracts are under budget, $10,300. Our salaries and benefits are under budget, $6,438. Our salaries or our repairs and maintenance are under budget, $1,881. Special projects are over budget, $5,478. Our reserves are under budget, they're over budget, $157. Total expenses are under $3,147.
Okay, so again, we're solidly in the black year to date, so that is a good position to be in. David, are you ready for delinquency yet?
Yeah, all I can get at the moment is the end of April.
Right. I can't hear David.
I'm sorry?
I can't hear you, David.
All I can pull up right now, because I can't get into my other program, is the end of April, which is in the financials. So $47,040 are over by 90 days. But I do know that one of our owners with multiple lots that has been delinquent for 2 quarterly payments, all of those payments have been made. So we should be back down to about 4,000 total, because they just cut a very large check for all, well, I think 5 of their lots that were delinquent for 2 months. It was just a banking oversight, I guess, and that's been paid. So.
Let me correct you. For the over 90 column through April 30th, the grand total was 4,739, of which 3 of the 6 delinquents were the one customer that you indicated, and you say payments now in the
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
So
I spoke
not
to the
much
person
would
who
be
handles them, and they've paid all of it up to date.
okay. Excellent. Low delinquency then. That's excellent.
Yes.
Okay, under our governing, do we have a current occupancy?
31% as of today.
31%. All righty. Excellent. Do you want to give a recap also, David, under governing of our April and May violations report?
Sure. We issued through April and May 48 violations. Most of those were first violations. We had 4 go into second violation status. 20 of them have been closed, and 40 of the 48 were for weeds.
Yeah, that's something, that I think maybe that in the fall, when we get back to higher occupancy, we need to probably talk about with our owners on a way to, help eliminate all of that bookwork on weeds. But I'm not sure what the answer is right now, but it certainly is an eye opener to see how much labor is involved in sending out notices, following up on the notices with weed control. So
one quick suggestion for that, I will check into a price for it, but it may be pretty reasonable to have, the landscaper, Newell, instead of being, contracting separately. If that's just part of our contract, we cut the grass and we spray for weeds. We still don't have to have them touch anything else on people's lots as far as plantings. You can still use your own person, but it may be a pretty minimal price if they did the entire park. Just when they're here, they spray for weeds everywhere.
I think it's worth. What?
I said, I think that's an excellent idea. It's the biggest headache people have. I mean, and we had looked at it a number of years back, and the price was relatively low. And at that time, we didn't do it because there were so many people, doing landscaping in the park. Well, that's not the case anymore. And I think that would be a service that every owner would definitely appreciate. They don't have to worry about the summertime, weeds pop up in 2-3 days when the rainy season.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is Barb.
Yes, please.
The only thing I would like to add to that is there are several lots that are full pavers that get absolutely no benefit from that.
We have plenty of lots of weeds pop up in the pavers.
Definitely.
And also in the flower beds.
Right.
They got landscaping.
Uh-huh.
Well,
look, we can
I think it would
check the
behoove
price and see if it's something to look into later on. For the summer, we'll just keep tackling it as they pop up. But that was one of the only reasonable solutions I could think of, and thinking about it for the last few weeks.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, why don't you report it at the next meeting then? Okay, what you find out.
Sure.
Okay, it's time to address the next item of reopening Town Center, Welcome Center. Let me go ahead and recap what we need to discuss and approve. Town Center only, we're going to talk for just a second. We had discussed keeping the Town Center closed for the time being due to the savings of utilities, housekeeping, and it would provide a traffic-free environment for our proposed volunteer repainting of the lobby, hallways, and great room. And of course, we would review this monthly for any need to reopen. Also at the town center, we would continue the pool and spa capacity limit of 30, resident furniture use only, 6-foot social distancing stations. Is everyone, can we go ahead and take a quick vote on just the town center though, so we know if that's, or is there any discussion on the town center right now?
None for me.
Question. With 30% occupancy or 31% occupancy, do we really even need to set a limit? As long as they keep the distance?
Good question.
I agree,
John.
I agree, Joe.
Yeah, this is John. I actually agree with that.
Pat, did you have something to say, sir?
Yes. I think that everybody has pretty much demonstrated they get the picture. They've been responsive. I don't think we need to set rules. I think they have enough common sense. I know they have enough common sense to go in there and use it responsibly. So I would say just let's open it up.
Okay.
I agree.
So, and you were referring to the pool, correct?
Yeah, we're talking about the town center, right?
No, I'm talking about the town center pool right now.
Wait, the town center is open. Are we talking about removing restrictions?
The 30, yeah. Just let.
I thought you were talking about opening the town center itself, Deb.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Do we
No,
need two
let
pools?
me,
Do we need two
Personally,
pools open right now?
personally, I have to say I feel that the Welcome Center pool could remain closed.
Well, Deb, when David talked to us about that before, he said of all pools, that's the most that's the easiest one to
Monitor.
observe. I mean, it's right there at his office. So we already have the town center pool open, and David himself is saying the Welcome Center is easy to be sure that people are adhering to the rules. So why would we not just go ahead and open it? We have to do the same treatment to that pool as we do all of the other maintenance things as the other pool. So why not just open both?
Right, there's no additional costs for opening. We still have to maintain it according to health department standards, whether it's open or closed. I mean, unless we drain the pool and let it go.
Okay.
But right now it's ready.
In the rainy season.
So let's do this
Can
to
I
make
make
things
a
simple.
suggestion to what Barb said? I would
Okay.
open the Welcome Center pool also. I would not heat it. So those that don't like the heat of the big pool can have, it should stay fairly warm by the sun, that, they have an alternative.
Okay.
You're running now anyway.
No.
Yeah, there's no
But I'm
need.
just saying.
Okay, so let's go back to the town center building, okay? I had originally read to go ahead and keep it closed, the town center building, to save on utilities, housekeeping, provided traffic-free environment for a proposed volunteer repainting of the lobby, hallways, and great room, and we would review monthly for any need to reopen. Is there discussion on the building, town center building?
I agree with the building staying closed for those reasons.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay.
Next.
Let's go ahead and make that a note then, that we will keep the town center building closed. Now, town center pool. Is there any further discussion that we will open up the town center pool with no restriction capacity? Now we need to talk. Go ahead, Pat.
Why don't we the restrictions we have in place are just the common sense restrictions. Just leave the restrictions there. It's open, it's working.
And,
Well,
no
the limit,
limit.
I think, is what we were talking about.
we haven't hit capacity any time since it's been back open. When we had 20 after water aerobics, there was 21 one day, so Howard Anderson couldn't participate. other than that, that's the only time that it's been 20 people or more, and it hasn't been close to 30 since it's been back open at 30.
So the point is it's an unnecessary restriction.
Yeah,
It's unnecessary. Remove it.
I agree to remove it, Deb.
Yeah. The 30 limit is what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yes.
Let's talk about the furniture. I open it up for discussion.
I'd stay where we're at this point.
That's no furniture whatsoever, and residents bring theirs in. Is
Yeah,
current.
someone-
I would
bringing
like to
the
see the
tables back
table and
out.
chairs put back in, Deb, like they were in the beginning, because they certainly stayed social distancing when they were out there at first with the new pool opening. I think they need to have the tables and chairs back.
I'd put the tables out, not the chairs.
What difference would that be, Joe?
Well, I'm just suggesting that we're having them bring their chairs. Let's keep the maintenance, as far as cleaning down, 1. 2, I'm not sure you're correct that they were socially following around the tables because they were using it as the bar and so forth. So I'm saying,
Well, Joe, I was
wait,
at the
Deb,
pool
let me
when-
finish, please. Barb, I was suggesting originally when we had the issue is to just take the chairs off, not take the chairs and the table. So I have no problem with the tables. They're bringing their chairs. Let it stay that way. I'm done.
Well, David, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I don't see any reason to restrict tables or chairs at this point. I think we're through this enough. People have made up their mind at this point on how socially distanced they want to stay. So if they bring their own chairs and sit around the table, I don't know that that's much different than sitting in our chairs, other than the cleaning before and after. And even that, unless we're sitting down there 24/7, we don't know that every person is doing that. We just have to go on the honor system.
Okay.
So it just doesn't make sense really to even have the restriction in place, because it's very difficult to monitor. And I think the people who want to be safe are definitely going to sanitize it, before and after anyway.
I agree.
All right. So with David's recommendation to put the tables and chairs back, let's go ahead and make sure that we're all in agreement. Barb, you're yes, right? John?
That's correct, Deb.
Yeah, I'm a yes, but we're talking about just tables and chairs, not the lounge chairs, correct? That's a
Correct.
different subject.
Correct.
Yes, that's
yeah.
a different.
Yeah, I'm a yes.
Okay, Joe?
Yes.
Mr. Truitt?
Yes.
And Gary?
Yes.
And Mr. Zallo?
Yes.
Okay, David, please put back the tables and chairs. Let's talk about the loungers. They're not in yet, correct?
They are not. Leisure said that they should be here next week. I
Gosh.
haven't rushed them. They just called me and said, "Hey, we'll be ready to bring them back." So I don't know. I kind of don't want them back yet, because we don't really have a lot of space in the town center for them until we're going to put them back outside. So hey, take your time, guys. That's fine. We'll tell you when we need
Okay.
them.
Okay, so on the lounge, is there anyone opposing that we do not add the loungers right now?
I have a question about
Yeah.
that, actually. The chemicals that we're using for cleaning, are they harsh to where they'll ruin these new strong chairs, loungers?
No.
David, what is your chemical?
We have different chemicals depending on what's available. Everything from ZEP antibacterial odor bond disinfectant. We do a bleach mixture if we were running low, because the stores, they pretty much have everything now, but we've switched it out a few different times based on what we could find. If as long as you're not spraying down the chair with like a bleach solution and then just letting it sit in the sun, if you spray it down, wipe it down, it really shouldn't have any effect. That's those are supposed to be cleaned with a chlorine solution at least once a week anyway to kill the mold. So I don't think we're hurting them.
Just dip them in the pool once a week.
Dip them in the pool once a week.
Well, if you're not putting them out, it's a non-issue.
Yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't put them out yet.
Right.
I mean, we can hold
Is
them inside
everyone
all
in favor?
summer. I'm okay with that. That'll be less to clean up when we get our 10 potential hurricanes this year that they're calling for.
Okay. So is everyone okay with not adding the loungers?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
All righty, no loungers.
Yes.
All righty, let's move on to the Welcome Center. Currently, as you all know, the laundry is open, the public restrooms is open, and the library is open. And the office has remained closed. We have had a request to open up the pool tables and the card room and the gym. Does anyone have a problem that we need to discuss on the pool tables?
No.
No.
Oh.
No.
Sounds like we'll open up the pool tables. Does anyone have a problem open up the card room?
No.
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 All righty. Do we have a discussion on the gym equipment?
David said there's most is 2 people down there at a time anyhow. So it's no different than the pool. I'd say open it up.
And we do have sanitary
Okay.
gym wipes in there, separate. They're not Lysol wipes. They're actually made for the gym equipment. Those are already in place.
Is there any opposition to opening up the gym?
No.
None.
None.
David, you have checked with your employees in the office area, and the overall comment from the employees that are opening up the office is
We're ready for it. Brittany has been open by appointment only anyway. So people are still coming in and exposing us to whatever it is that they're carrying or not carrying. But we've still been trying to separate people, one, to sanitize in between, and because they say this stuff lingers in the air, so we're trying to at least give some sort of distance in between. But
okay.
again, I think we're to the point the office staff is ready to open. It won't be much different for us, and we'll still try to keep people, separated enough to clean in between.
I agree.
I think
Would it help
Okay,
to put a plexiglass piece up in front of
Like Publix and all.
Publix, banks are doing it.
Yeah, everyone has it. I mean, maybe, but you know what happens? You've probably seen it where they poke their head around the plexiglass or try to stick their head under.
If you try to do the whole thing, but I'm thinking if you have a reasonable, it should come around.
Plexiglass.
all righty. Does anyone have any opposition to abiding by David and the staff's recommendation to open up the office? Any objections?
No.
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 Okay. So David, would you send out a note to the community recapping the status of each and if any restrictions then?
Yes, I will do that. That will be, yep, I'll send it out today.
All righty.
Did we cover the Welcome Center pool?
I'm sorry. Yes, I did skip that. The recommendation was to reopen it, but not heat it at this time. Do we need any discussion on that? Is there anyone opposed to that recommendation?
No.
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 Nope.
All righty. The Welcome Center Pool and Spa will be open. We just won't heat it at this time. How about the chairs? There are a few chairs up there, loungers.
Yeah, there are
Same.
a few.
Up to there.
What's that?
Let's leave them there.
You have
and see
about
what
10
happens.
loungers.
Yeah, I would recommend just leaving them in place. This pool typically only gets a handful of people at any given time anyway, with the other pool open. We'll have one person floating on a raft reading a book, most likely, and that's about the extent of the use. So.
Okay.
I agree.
All righty.
We'll
Thanks
put
for
a
the
sanitization
recommendation.
station out here as well.
Okay. Moving on to the next topic and the last one under governing. David, I'd like for you to address the end of season and storm preparation concern and what action needs to be taken.
Well, when everyone initially left early because of the the coronavirus, there were quite a few lots that they left tables, chairs, glass top tables, and things all over. There were about 20 when we started. Everyone has been spoken to, contacted. We didn't actually have to issue any violations. People took care of it on their own. There are still lots that appear to be empty with a table and chairs and some things out there. But those people actually live locally, whether they live on their lot full time or not. They are here in the area, so they're available for storm prep and are aware that if they leave, then they need to prep their lot for a storm. But we're in good shape, other than a handful of those little high were the Millers type signs that hang out front that are not very secure. A lot of people left those up, and the solution to that for one little sign may just be we'll go around and collect them and stick them in a box until people come back down. I don't know that it's worth sending a violation to Canada over a 12 by 14 inch piece of wood. So we can take care of that if the owners, would like us to. If they don't have a place on site to send it away. But right
So
now,
it's
we
so
are in
you.
good shape.
I just wanted to say, so between you and Brittany, you've been in personal contact with any of the lot owners that there's still a sampling of things,
Yes.
not a great amount. And then that if a storm situation occurs, you're saying that you and the staff is willing to remedy the situation?
No. So all of the people who still have anything out there, other than a couple of those signs, they're all here. They're all local. So that would be up to them. We're not going to go out there and clean up their lot in those situations. They need to come and do that on their own. But they're all people who live in Fort Myers or something. The ones that I said Brittany and I would handle is if it's just a sign or something. If they're back in Canada or Maine or something and they just have the one little piece out there, we can handle that part of the cleanup. But if there's no one excessive at this point except for the local people who are still here.
Okay, so my question is, if they're local, why isn't it cleaned up?
Because they still, it gets used. They have renters coming and going, that sort of thing. Like Dick Wittes is one that his looked empty because he lives in Fort Myers. He was just parked off site. He rented his lot, so in the time between him pulling his RV back and his renters leaving, there were a couple tables and chairs and things out there. But he's a local person, and now he's back on his lot. So there's only, I think, 2 of these situations. 2 tables and chairs on different lots. One of them's in D section, so they both might be in D section. But again, the people are local. They live here. I mean, we can ask them, look, you're not here, clean it up. But it's 1 table, 4 chairs, and they live 20 minutes away from the park. So, do you think in that situation we should do something for these people who come and go?
Board, do you have any discussion on this?
First of all, I'm not really sure I understand if these are people that now live in a house in Fort Myers and rent their lots out. I could understand the difference, but are these people that live in Fort Myers and they also use their own Cypress Woods lot?
I don't know if they use them personally or what. I mean, I don't know that situation, but I do know that they live here. They said, we're here, we're available to come, if any storm is coming or if we need to put them away, but we live here. So it's not, they didn't leave for the season. I think there is a difference between someone who can be here in 20 minutes and someone who's 2,000 miles away. Whether, we don't know how people use their lots all the time. Some of them do rent their lot, some of them may not.
Uh-huh.
But
I tell you what,
there's 2 and there's
just
none.
to save some just to save some time on this, since you're only talking a couple lots, why don't David, you and I will discuss it, and then we'll get back to the board on that. Is that okay?
That works for me.
Good. All right, committee oversight reports, and again, let's keep this concise. John Genovese, do you have any updates on ARC right now?
Yeah, we did 14, well, they did 14 approvals, all as well.
Excellent. And on the facilities committee, recess?
Yeah, they're recessed. Yep.
Okay. On the 5-star committee, technically, I do have the first committee meeting report with them, and they are getting bids right now that will be submitted to the board for a fluffing up of the town center lobby, hallways, and the restrooms. So as soon as we get that, we'll address that situation as well.
Deb, real quick, with the 5-star,
yeah.
before or the next time you meet with them, can you ask what direction they want to go with the Welcome Center pool bathrooms that are, well, at both pool bathrooms really, they're severely outdated. Very least we're going to paint the floors this summer in the town center bathrooms. We can do that whenever. But you know, there's the old lockers in there, a bench, all of the dividers for the stalls are old and warped. And the shower, remember I sent pictures a while ago. We have one shower pan leaking in the Welcome Center bathroom. So do we want to do a full remodel on these things, or just have Chris kind of piece it back together, stop the leaking the best we can, and then we'll deal with it later on? So if you figure that out for us, so Chris and I have direction on what to do. Not
a problem. I'll make sure I present it to him. Okay, David, under the fertilization pest control update with Arrow.
Oh, hey, Deb.
Yes.
Back on that bathroom thing, before you present to the 5-star, can we give them a budget? You know, say, you know, here's kind of what, you know, it needs to be remodeled, right? I mean, we know that to be a fact. So shouldn't we talk about, you know, we've got about this much money to spend, or we can plan for this much money to spend in a remodel of a bathroom? I mean, these are not mechanical folks. These are decorators, right?
It's cosmetic. Yes, it is. So yes, again, I think I need to talk with them on what they expect as far as the scope of work, and then I think we could set the budget. Okay. But yes, budget is a big thing, and so I will go in that direction. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, John. Okay, David, under the Newell performance and Aero service expansion.
Okay, so with Aero, the board did discuss additional areas to be treated now that we've had a couple treatments from Aero, and the rains will be starting. We should start to really see some improvement. But there were some areas, shrubs in front of the town center to be treated, across the street between the town center and the D Lake. To treat those shrubs that aren't included now would be an additional $10 a month. Pest control over in the grilling and fire pit area through all the grasses and around all the gazebos over there would be $100 per quarter. Just pest control, no weed control, because that area is either dirt or weeds anyway. We don't want to kill the little bit that's there. The memorial area, the circle itself, the turf treatments to keep you know, the weed and feed on the grass around the actual memorial would be $42 per month. That's for the inside of the circle. And then we discussed the outside of that cul-de-sac along the preserve and along the roadway where a lot of people walk their dogs. We've had excessive fire ants and then holes dug by armadillos looking for food. So to treat just for pests on that outer ring would be an additional $30 per month, and that's basically from that last house across the street from Barb, the last lot across from Barb on that corner, all the way down around the ring to the storage entrance, and then the other side of the storage entrance up
Okay.
to C59.
So I believe I sent this out to the board already and they're more than familiar with it. So the total addition onto the Aero contract would be $1,380 a year. We just need to ratify this. So I will go ahead and offer a vote now to ratify the contract to add $1,380 annually to Aero. Barb, your vote?
I just have a question. Can I do that before we vote?
Sure.
And it pertains to the Memorial Circle or the Sea Circle.
Sure.
And what I read, it's a total of $864 a year out there, David. But are you telling me that it does not include any kind of fertilization in around the circle, just the inner memorial where the pavers are?
That is correct. It is just pest control on that outer ring. That's a large area, and he said the pest control would be, quite a bit more for an area that large. On top of the fertilization would be quite a bit more.
Can I add on to that, Barb? The actual Memorial Circle itself, they are going to do turf treatment fertilization for $42 more a month, and that is part of the $1,380 annual increase. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that is pest
Yes,
control,
they are doing that.
and fertilizer.
The main fertilization out there needs to be around the circle. I hate to tell you, but anyway, okay, thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and get this ratified. $1,380 a year increase for Aero. Barb?
What would that make our total to them?
Oh, golly, it was 17.8, I believe, and then it would be 13.80 on top of that.
It's already almost 18,000.
Oh yeah, we already voted on the new annual contract with them.
Yeah, well, actually, the difference isn't that much because we took it out of Newell's contract.
That's right.
So I believe the difference was $2,800, and this $1,384 would be added to the $2,800.
Right. That is correct. Any more discussion? Okay.
Question.
Who has a question?
I said call the question.
Okay. So to go ahead with this ratification, please, Barb?
Well, can I just make a motion to do it and then we can all vote now? Yay or nay?
Yes,
Okay.
please do.
I'll make a motion to increase it to 1380.
All righty. All the,
Second.
okay, Pat. All right, Barb, your vote?
Aye.
Okay, John?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
All right? Gary?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Ratified. Okay, David, you have more to talk about on Newell, and again, if we can speed this up a little bit.
Yeah, okay. There are a couple proposals in here that we don't necessarily have to discuss at the moment. None of these are emergencies, maybe with the exception of this tree. There's a tree over behind the, well, I'll tell you what, I don't know that we need to do that because I'm still waiting on proposals. Barb had a couple people come out here, DuPay Tree Service, and I can't remember the other company name off the top of my head. I don't have their proposals yet. I've spoken to DuPay a couple of times. They're looking at more than just this tree. It's for some of that B section fence.
Okay.
So we're looking at, with Newell, $750 to cut down the diseased tree that's likely going to fall in the next storm. We may get a couple other bids for that from these other people before agreeing to this one. I think we can revisit at our next monthly meeting. There's a bid for some sod in front of the town center along that strip along the roadway, $200.
Okay.
we don't have to discuss that now either. We would wait till rainy season to put it in anyway. But this came about with Newell. They are giving us a new contract, which is basically the old contract that was in place before Steve Pigman changed it to a table. They don't have that yet, but I've seen what we used to have in place. They're just modifying it to fit our new cutting routine and numbers. I'm also meeting with Steve Newell himself and Mark from Newell every Tuesday at 9 a.m. We're meeting and walking different sections of the community. This Tuesday we walked all of B section and part of D. But every week we'll be hitting a full section and looking at various issues, including the way these guys are cutting, to see what they're missing, what they're doing right, wrong. It's just sort of a group follow-up on their crew. We also have a new crew leader in place. They replaced Anthony, who's been sort of the longtime crew leader. The new guy's name is, I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's Manuel, maybe. I met him yesterday. Good guy, and he speaks full English, not broken at all.
Okay.
So he's very easy to communicate with. He's born, raised here. Good crew leader. Anyway, so we're just continually following up on some of their promised changes that we were promised a few weeks ago.
Sounds good.
And
Appreciate you getting involved with them, and I think we'll see the results. So that.
Deb, could I add something to the tree thing?
Yes.
Okay, David, those two companies that came out and talked to us, I did see their proposal, but that was to cut out the dead pines back in B, but also that tree came up over there by the
Carpet.
that dead tree that's over there by the the picnic area, for lack of a better way to say it. And I would like to see you specifically call those two companies and ask them, David, what they would charge to get rid of that tree, because that is actually a safety hazard.
Yes.
I looked at it with the arborist guy. It is dangerous. So we need to at least take care of that tree right away.
Yeah, like I said, I think we need to move on it within the next month. It's still standing and it still has new growth growing, but I think it's not going to survive the first major storm, or if we get a hurricane, there's no chance of that.
Only half of that tree is living. Only half of it is growing and living.
Can we make a motion to accept up to this Newell's bid on that, waiting for the other two? So at least once.
Joe, I would like to add that I believe that one guy said $600 to do that tree.
My suggestion was, since we're here, let's approve up to the $750. So if the other two come in lower, we can go to them. But at least we don't have
I'll second Joe's motion.
Vote it.
I would agree with that for sure.
Okay, John seconded. All those accepting.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question.
Pat?
In 10 words or less, can you tell me what we're voting on? I got lost in the dialogue.
Yes. We're voting to cut down a dying tree behind A33 in the fire pit area. That may be 12 words.
A31.
Okay, thank you.
It is severely
Okay,
damaged.
fine. Yes.
Okay, we have a first and a second motion. All those, we'll go roll call quickly to accept a maximum payout of $750 of Newell or whoever in less than that. Barb?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
Go.
Did you say Joe? Were you waiting on Joe?
Well, I didn't hear you say Joe, I heard you say John. Yes.
No. And Dwayne?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
And Pat?
Yes.
That is approved. All righty, moving right along here. David, can we get into, again, we're going to really have to speed this up, the water pressure issue, the backflow testing and results, and the final results of the irrigation cross-connection testing.
Okay, so Dwayne may want some of this, but my quick overview, all of the cross connections for irrigation being connected to fresh water. We've checked every lot and found none. You know, if they're there, they're hidden very well, but we don't think that's the case. The backflow inspection, Dwayne may want to touch on this a little bit more, but his engineers recommended we use Wayne Fire. Wayne Fire came out, did the inspection. They found one part, it's a discharge like valve on the bottom of it that doesn't affect its flow into the park at all. It's just if the pressure gets too high, there are multiple discharges on there. That's what the backflow preventer does. If the pressure is too high, it'll discharge out of the bottom. One of the two discharges doesn't function properly. They're trying to find a replacement part for us, but they've been unable to get me a price because it's such an old backflow. They said we can do it, but the warehouses and suppliers that we deal with were closed for coronavirus, so they don't have a price to replace that part, but it should be a few $100s.
Okay.
If I can interject here, because I have some updated information.
Okay.
At our direction, the engineers requested Tice Fire a couple of weeks ago to perform a new round of fire flow tests. And essentially, after making all the other tests and reopening the one valve that was found shut, basically the result is the same, if not worse, than what it was before. So after talking extensively with our engineers, what we finally came to the conclusion was we're done trying to troubleshoot whatever the issue is that's causing the low pressures. And consequently, what we propose to do instead, and we're collecting contractor bids on this right now so we can get an idea of what the cost would be. But we think the only actual solution that can be done is to install a booster pump downstream of the backflow preventer. And we've done some preliminary research on it. There are products out there available immediately that do just that. And it's just really a matter of how much would it cost and when could we do it. So stand by for that. We'll have more information later once we get these sort of preliminary estimations back from some contractors, and I'll notify the board at that time what we've learned.
Dwayne, thank you very much. If there's no other discussion on that, thanks for the report, David. I do want to go to the soil clean out, and again, I'm going to ask Dwayne to do to jump in on this. Are we at a point now where we do need to seriously look at the soil clean out? Any discussion?
What's where you talk about along behind D, across the top of D and behind?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. I think we still should, if we're going to do it this year, it should be done before rainy season.
You're almost out of that.
Yeah, and then which will be coming any day now, hopefully sooner than later. It's been this way for a long time, but this is supposed to be an above average hurricane season. So even if we don't get hurricanes, that means we should have above average storms and rainfall due to the temperature of the Atlantic. So, I would recommend at the cost that we got so far, $12,000 roughly. I think that's a very good price. I was expecting 10 times that amount. I think we should probably move and get it done as quickly as possible.
I have some questions.
Okay.
Let me project, and maybe this would be one thing, Barb. We do have a bid from Yates Excavating from February 14th of this year to do a total clean out, and it was $12,400. That is the only bid at this time, and I'm sure we at least want to get another bid on this. Okay, Barb.
One of the main things I learned from South Florida Water Management is, and it is in writing, we are not allowed to do any kind of excavating or digging or changing of water flow areas like that without their permission.
Right, but that's not what this is.
What is this?
This is just
Yeah,
clearing
it is.
the existing swell. This is maintenance that is supposed to be done to keep our existing swell open. We're not changing directions, changing locations, changing the flow. We're just removing the trees, vegetation, and whatever else is in there clogging it up. All the potted plants that people have thrown in there over the years when they discard them, any trash that's in there. But this is maintenance. This is not a change to our permit or water flow in any way. And we can always talk to them first and tell them what we're doing. But I don't think there's any reason they would require a permit for this. This is just standard stuff that most communities do annually.
Well, if that's
We're
an
actually required
excavating,
to do that work, David. It's actually a condition of our permit that we properly maintain the system that was approved and permitted.
Right.
Okay. May I make a suggestion that at this point we have David and Dwayne kind of look into and then make a recommendation to the board since we only have one bid. Yeah, John?
Can't we go the way of the tree and approve up to the current bid? We know we got to do it. If the current bid's the best bid, then let's just go ahead and approve that or less, with
if we're talking,
the caveat that there's one or two more bids.
if we're talking about cleaning out trees and tree debris and flower pots, why would an excavating company have to be hired to do that if they're not going to be digging?
What are you going to do it with?
Yeah. It's not something that could be done manually. There's, full trees from 20 years of growth growing right in the center of the swale. So they need heavy equipment to come in and basically bulldoze all of those trees down, throw them in the back of a truck and haul them out of here to the waste site.
And then the excavator also then has to grade what's left because, you don't want to leave just big root ball holes here and there and everywhere.
Right.
Why don't we do this then?
Putting it back to the spec.
Right, Barb, why don't you, Dwayne, and David work on this and make a proposal then to the board, okay? Would that be all right?
Are you saying me?
Yeah.
Well, seeing as how I'm not there, first of all, Pat and I went out and looked to see that swale behind D, and there were some trees there, but not to inhibit water flow as far as draining from lots and so forth that's designed to do. So the area evidently that you all are talking about that have flower pots and all the stuff you said, I'm not even sure where that is, Dad.
Well, I can tell you what. Go ahead.
We only looked at a small portion. There's all kinds of debris and trees and things in there that's impeding that flow.
John, you okay?
Yeah, a trailer just passed me and his awning flew off and I just ran over it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right.
Well, could I?
That was nuts. Sorry, guys.
Could I encourage everyone to get the bid out that was given to you in February, Yates Excavating, or we can resend it to you, and it will show you the scope of work and what they're proposing to do, and then take it from there.
I would like to go back to John's suggestion that we approve up to that amount and leave it with Dave and the people here to figure it out, him and Dwayne, and again, because if we're trying to get it done before rainy season, time is of the essence.
I agree with that, Joe. I just have one question. Where's this coming from, Deb? Where are we taking this out of?
Let me look at the, hold on.
Line back.
I'm just looking on our project list to see if that was included, Pat.
I'm talking about the budget line item.
Yeah, I'm just looking here.
I would think it would be a maintenance item.
Well,
It's $12,000.
We
general
are-
maintenance?
General maintenance right there, but we had rollover funds from last year that aren't showing in any of these items. We run over by a pretty healthy amount in any
Yeah.
of these.
Well,
Yeah.
can we move the money to maintenance?
You can't move it.
Okay.
Budget is
Repairs
what it
and
is, but you
maintenance,
can just
repairs
run
and maintenance general is already over budget by only $22 for what we've been encumbered so far with what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, there's a lot of background noise right now. I don't know what's going on.
I
There.
muted John. John, you're muted. Yeah, John, sorry. So,
Okay.
I'll have to unmute before you start talking again, John.
You know, I'd rather not approve anything at this time until we really look at the budget and see where it would come out of. I hate to make just a quick judgment call here.
So do I for $13,000.
Yeah.
Now that
Because even though we've got cash with what we've committed to so far, we've got some categories going over budget already.
Right.
Okay, we got the next item.
Okay. So let's do some research on the funding first, and then we'll take it up again.
I will try to
And
get another contractor out here now. We had that last guy out before coronavirus, so now that things are opening back up, I'll see if I can get someone to come out and take another look. Give us one more bid.
Okay. Alrighty. Dwayne, do you have any E-section updates for us that you'd like to share?
Sure. Yeah, several things. Number one, we submitted all of our building permits, and those applications are being processed right now. We appear to be on track to get approval for building permit. It looks like sometime next month. And we had to clear up a few sort of misunderstandings with the county, but they got resolved favorably for us. So that's taken care of. It appears right now we had set aside our lot sales program, pre-construction lot sales program, because of COVID, which, you know, everybody in the whole world got sort of set back on their heels here the last several months. But I think at this point we're feeling pretty good about going forward, and we'll have a pre-construction lot sales release coming up sometime within the next several weeks. So I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. These prices will be discounted substantially from what they would be otherwise be, once construction is completed. And so I think those are the two main things.
Are you still working on getting your dirt?
Well, we had an opportunity to bring in some dirt early, and the seller had offered it cheaply. But when we looked at the haul cost, it actually wasn't so cheap.
Okay.
And when we tried to negotiate downward further on the purchase price, they had somebody that offered more than we did. So it looks like that's not going to happen.
Okay.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes. All
Well, we're
righty.
getting good prices from the contractors. There appears to be kind of a COVID discount underway with construction contractors. So that was David's point a moment ago, and I think if we're going to do work, anybody in the resort, this is probably a good year to get it done.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the update. David, just quickly, the PM program, would you give a quick update on that, please?
Yeah, we met earlier this week to sort of see, John's finished product. Brittany and Chris and I still have to kind of go through, which we can do early next week. And I want to just print it in a way that it's easy for us to read and walk through it. And I'd really like to do our first inspection next Friday. Just start and see how long it takes to get through the whole list, start to finish. And then we'll start making, any necessary changes to format afterwards. But
Okay.
At the end of next week, I think we should have our first run through completed.
Okay. Excellent. Alrighty, we, moving on now to road repair project, which we have allocated, those funds for a 2020 Cypress Woods project. It was going to be, coming out of repairs and maintenance general to execute second quarter. The bid was $8,565 from Bain Seal Coat. Dave, do you have any update on that?
Yeah, Bain's office, you know, we've been pushed off time and time again from them. Mike Bain is back at the office. He said he'll come out, do a quick run through to make sure that, you know, nothing has substantially changed, and then to look at any additional areas that we have, because there are a few additional areas I think that we can still fit into this budget without going back and more money than is approved. But when he meets with me next week, I'm going to tell him if he can't be here, you know, within 2 weeks of that meeting, we're just moving on, and I'll contact Driveway Maintenance, who is our next closest bid. We'll get Van out here because they're a larger company and they should be able to do the work much quicker. But Bain's a good company, good price. They just keep pushing us off. So if I don't get a solid date next week, then I think we should move on to Driveway Maintenance or another company if it pops up.
I have a question, David.
Yes.
I know you said that Bain Seal Coat keeps pushing us off. How soon did we notify them that we're on board to do this project? You know, it seems like that we were putting them on hold.
No, in I believe November, when we actually approved the money, we approved it at a meeting. It was either November or October even. We approved it, gave them, and they said, okay, great, but we can't come out there until probably March at this point. They're so backed up. They told us last season that they wouldn't be out until March. March rolls around this year, and they said they're still backed up. They haven't caught up on their schedule, this, that, and now we're at the end of May, and they still can't seem to fit us in anytime soon. So we gave them approval 6 months ago, minimum. And they told us March, but now they're 2 months behind the estimated date that they gave us. And we've followed up with them. You know, we've talked to them multiple times, but they just don't seem to have a date. They say we'll get to you when we can. It's a small project. You know, they're not going to put off $100,000 or $500,000 paving project to come do $8,000 of work if they don't have to. But you know, again, work is work. I think this time they should need it, and if you can't get out here in 2 weeks, then we move on to a different company.
Well,
Good idea.
we approved $8,000. We budgeted $8,000 before. This is $8,565. Why don't we approve the $8,565 and tell David to go get another bid or get somebody to even do the seal coating? Well, they got to do some patching too. It's just not just seal coating.
The seal coating has nothing to do with this bid. That's from asphalt restoration specialist. They do the asphalt rejuvenation. That I believe is much more expensive. Harshen was on site 2 weeks ago. He came to do a drive-through and tell us if we're ready for it yet. He hasn't given me the report, but that's a separate issue. That has nothing to do with the seal coat. This is to repair all of our potholes and to do something about the flooding in the handicap parking spaces at the town center.
Yeah, the seal coating is a misnomer there, Pat. That's just the name of the company, but this,
right.
like David said, has nothing to do with the seal coating.
Sorry, yeah, it's Bain Seal Coat is the name of the company. But you know, they do all kinds of asphalt. They came and they fixed the road in front of C100 where the sewer was replaced, and it looks perfect. They do great work. I've used them before. They're highly recommended by a lot of people, but that's why they're so busy and so unresponsive for these smaller jobs, I guess. So, like I said, we can get.
So hopefully you'll find out we can get them right away. Hopefully you'll find out we can get them right away, David, because they do a great job.
Yeah, oh yeah, they did really good work. So like I said, I think 2 weeks is more than fair at this point because they're 2 months behind their estimated date. And if you can't confirm that, then, you know, we'll move on to other sources instead of putting it on hold until rainy season.
Okay, so is everyone willing to wait 2 weeks to get a couple more bids, hopefully, and then we'll take a look at it again, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yep, go ahead.
Do you have anything, David, on storage area, grading and milling?
No, we have the 2 bids in place. You know, they're moderately close to each other. It was suggested, I don't remember who I talked to about this, if we're going to be doing any asphalt repairs, you know, we don't know what's going to happen if Dwayne has to use our front entrance and go through the community. If any part of the roadway needs to be re-asphalted after that, we'll have millings from that, and it could substantially save us, you know, quite a bit of money. They could mill up from the road and move back there. But that's a big if, that if he goes through there and if somehow that equipment damages it. I don't see that much equipment going through, but that was a suggestion. But again, we're ready to do this. Both of these companies can get this done pretty quickly for us. Yates Excavating and David Rose are ready to roll as soon as we give them the okay. If we're going to do it this year, doing it before rainy season makes the most sense. I know there was some discussion about that area maybe not being permitted for the use that we have. You know, I don't think there's any truth to that, but I thought we were going to hold off until some more research could be done. We don't want to spend the money to redo a parking lot and then, you know, potentially be told we shouldn't be doing anything back there.
Right. So you received two, Barb, just a second. We had received 2 bids, one from Yates in amount of $5,500 and a second one from Rose, and that was $7,000, correct? And those are April bids.
Yes.
Okay, Barb?
Thanks, Deb. David, I talked to Danny, the fellow that did the millings in the first place out there, and it was certainly level and smooth when he did it. And he said that there was probably going to be sinkholes, places even back then that would have to be redone. I talked to him and he said he was going to contact you to give you an estimate for him to do the work out there. Did you hear from him?
No, I did not.
Okay.
And
when he came out there,
oh, go ahead, Pat.
When he came out there and was doing the job, we had a horrendous rainstorm, which worked out in his favor because he said, well, he would come in there, his equipment was still there, and he started, regrading it. And what happened was he got so many experts from the park telling him how to do his work that he packed up his equipment and left. I don't know that you can pave back there because that, even though that you might not be able to put an impervious surface there.
Well, so
that might cause you problems.
We're not trying to pave either side. There is a drain back there, Pat. So part of this would be to grade it in a way that it flows into that drain and out of there. So both of the companies that I talked to, David Rose and Yates, Matt from Yates Excavating, they both said that the millings that were put in before were, you know, if you go get millings and you take all the millings from, you know, the highway project or whatever else, they have a big pile of millings, they give it to you. What's left over is sort of those smaller pieces and sand that sort of sinks to the bottom of that pile. It's the leftovers of millings, and that's what we actually got. And they could tell, they picked it up. They said, you basically got asphalt sand back there, tiny pieces, where it should have been the larger millings. And obviously there was some of the larger, but a good portion of what we had was not very good quality product. So both of these companies said you have to use proper millings, the proper size, you know, get it fresh from a project, and then you use a roller to pack it down, and you put some sort of seal coat on top of that. It's a permeable surface, but it's basically as hard as a paved parking lot is what both of these companies have recommended to do. I think they had 2 different ideas on how to accomplish that. But both of them were in agreement that the product that was used is why it's already deteriorated the way it has. It shouldn't have gone that quickly, according to either of them. But again, I don't know exactly when it was done last. They looked at it and said that the product was a faulty product.
Okay.
which may have been why the price was what it is. Oh, sorry, 3 people. John Edwards also said the same thing about the milling. So,
Okay, so we're still kind of talking around the situation. Are we wanting to wait then until Gilman gets a hold of you for a third bid?
He's already said he has 2 different ideas, so.
Would you say,
While
Barb?
you're waiting, find out where you're going to get the money from.
Exactly.
well,
Because I've got a note here to revisit it in July. And is this something we do this year or do 2021? Because I'm questioning right now if we can even afford it this year. So we'll have to look at the funding on that. So let's go ahead and put that one to the side right now too, until we really look at the overall funding. And I think the next item too, on the Welcome Center pool renovation, I think you're collecting bids for a 2021 renovation and planning on the next year budget as well, right, David?
yes. I'm sorry, I can't think of her name offhand, but our inspector from the health department for the pools did tell us that we can, as long as we, have the bids in place, we can hold off until 2021.
And that's what we'll do.
For the renovation, so.
Okay. That's
Can I
what
That would
clarify
be a-
that before you go on? David, I would like for you to contact Gilman and see what he says.
What's his name? David Gilman?
Danny.
Danny Gilman?
If you look up in the invoices, there's an invoice on file for him. He's a vendor.
When was he done last? When was that done?
Pat, come on, help me. 2018?
Oh, not that long ago. All right, I'll have that invoice.
Yeah, it's just been
It
recently.
was 2018. Well, then, wow, he did a really bad job if it was 2018 and it's already looking like that. But again, it's
Well,
not his work.
I don't
it's the
agree.
product.
Okay. All righty. I understand our Welcome Center laundry entry door lock is completed and installed, correct?
Yes. Locks are in place.
Excellent.
The code is 1998, which is the year Cypress Woods was founded, I guess, and built,
Oh.
started.
Hatched.
Okay.
Sure. Hatched.
All
Yeah,
right.
So that's the code 1998, and I think you hit star, and I'll send that out to everyone now that we're going to be using it. 1998 star. It will buzz, and you can open the door. So it only takes one hand to unlock the door, and you can open with the same hand. So if you're carrying laundry,
Nice.
it's easier. It's in and working just fine on both.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to skip down to item 22, which was the HVAC preventive maintenance program that we did approve, but they had to do an initial baseline inspection, which that is done, and I believe David just sent that out today
Yeah,
from B
just got these.
and I, and it looks like here that they're, let's look at the big one first, the 5,280. This was requested by the facilities committee, it appears.
Yes.
It's a proposal for labor and materials to seal and insulate existing ductwork from the carrier RTU, and it gives a scope of work there. $5,280 there. And then on the second one from BNI, this is the town center and welcome center to add capacitors for 440. And then for the town center is a refrigerant suction line, needs new insulation. That's 1966 for a total of that project of 2406. We had talked earlier on the 2020 Cypress Wood project. We had this as a startup inspection, could cost around $4,000. If you add this together, unfortunately, it's closer to $8,000 now, so that doubled. David, do you get to talk to these people at all, or do we want to run this by the facilities committee? That have they seen this since they requested it?
No, I just got them sent over from Rick to my email this morning, or late yesterday. So no, I haven't sent them to anyone except for the board right now. So the first one, this 2,400 or the smaller amount, those are to correct all the deficiencies found in their inspection. It's $2,400 to get us up to 100% according to their inspection. I would recommend we just approve that. Let's just get our system working properly according to what they recommend. And then this other project here to do the duct work, I would say we can send that over to the facilities committee and see at that price, is it worth doing the requested work or not? I don't know.
And if it's this year or next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to check the funding. So right now, your recommendation is go ahead and have the board approve the 2406, correct?
Right. Yeah, that's what was the initial $4,000 in startups was.
And the 440? Oh, no.
What's the 440?
That's combined.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. 2406 total.
Is there any more
I have a
discussion
question, Deb.
on, please? Yes, Barb.
I'm looking at this for the town center and what they are, price proposal to do that is $1966. Isn't that our brand new air conditioner, the 35 ton that we just had installed by B&I?
No. We have 4 other smaller units in that building as well. So the 35 ton is for the main room, mostly. And then
I know what it's for.
Well, then there's 4 smaller AC units for the auxiliary parts of that building. And those are the lines that they're talking about. It's the 4 older, smaller units that weren't replaced with the 35 ton.
But David, all of our air conditioners have been replaced within the last two years. And I'm wondering, why would we be needing $8,000 now to do these extra things that they are suggesting we have done, when should they not have been done when they installed all of those 4 air conditioners?
B&I didn't install.
Well, if you read the proposal,
I'm sorry?
if you read the proposal, apparently they reused some old parts and they didn't seal it correctly, probably to keep the price down, which we'll now pay for.
No,
and the other one is the insulation on the lines, which deteriorates. That has to be replaced pretty regularly, I guess.
Right. So that this $2,400 proposal for the deficiencies, yeah, that is for those 4 the 4 smaller units. B&I didn't install those. The only thing B&I has done so far is the big 35 ton, and then we just gave them the preventative maintenance and inspection agreement for all of the units, and this is what they found. This $5,000 thing that was requested by the facilities committee, that is the one where they reused all of the old ductwork that was on the exterior of the building. And yes, you're correct, to save money, all they did was add about a 2-foot extension between the new unit and the existing ductwork. But what they want to do is reseal where it enters the building, put some insulation around, because it's thin steel and it's out in the sunlight baking all day. So the air that gets cold in the AC system is moving through these big hot pipes out there and probably losing some of its efficiency before it makes it into the building. Not to mention, in heavy rains around where that ductwork enters the building, we do get some moisture leaking in there. It's not dire, and it's sort of an unused, closet. It's not a lot of water, but there's a slight leak right now that could be an issue in the future if not addressed. And again, we could just fix the leak and not do all this extra work that the facilities committee has recommended, but that's why we're dealing with different things here. The smaller invoice, though, is not for the new system; it's for all of the old systems.
Right.
That's all written in the proposal. Jesus.
Yes.
Right.
Deb,
Joe.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2406 and
Second.
hold off
Second.
on the other till next
Okay.
year.
Second.
I just second it.
Okay. We'll take a quick vote then to approve the 2406. First of all, Barb.
Yay.
I don't know if John's still on the line or not.
He's he's here. He's muted. I'll unmute him and see. He
Okay,
may
Joe,
Yes.
be driving with one hand. John, we can hear you.
Yes.
if you want.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and Pat.
Yes.
Approved. Moving on now.
Deb,
Yes, sir.
Deb, excuse me. David, you have a pencil there, David?
Yes.
Danny Gilman's phone number,
Oh, good.
239. Oh, you got it?
No, keep going.
731 2786, and his mobile number 239 994 2432.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, Deb.
No, thank you so much. Okay. Coming to the end of the maintenance now, Dave, again, we're going to have to move this along. So we're going to talk about the drought and our irrigation system. Let's start with that first.
First off, on the drought, it was recommended yesterday or Wednesday maybe. We're critical mass. We have to shut down the irrigation pumps altogether because the intakes are exposed. We did purchase a pump that is currently running right now to pump water from the deeper D lake into the A lake. This was also recommended by lake doctors who said your A lake has so much shallow area. You need to get more water in there as soon as you can, not for irrigation purposes.
Okay,
Yeah. Anyway,
so it was purchased at what price? At what price?
it came out with all the little accessories and additional things. We were under $600, and that's a 2-year warranty, a full replacement warranty on the pump. Hose into the lake, hose out into the culvert. Yeah, we're about $570 with the replacement plan on it, so we can just take it back. It's up and running. Chris has it running today. Aeration. There's bids in here for aeration, and I don't know if you saw my email with that bid earlier. It seems a little bit high to me because I've installed these in the past, but it's different depending on the lake and what they have to do, how far they have to run the bubbler lines and things. So I'd like to get another bid on it and see, because it seems much higher than I was anticipating. But it is something that's highly recommended to have in any pond in Florida, and there's some literature on what the benefits of aeration are. So right now, after the weekend, I guess, we're going to run this pump for a couple days and see if we can bring our water level back up to a reasonable number, and get our irrigation back on. But I think it'll have to be shut down for the weekend unless we get some significant rain, and then Chris and I can come and flip the switch back on, and I'll update everyone on Tuesday.
Question.
And just
Gary,
yes.
David, can you tell me why we need aeration?
Yes. So
We haven't had it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Except for the fountains, and they certainly are aeration.
No, they're actually not at all. Fountains only aerate. They pull water from the surface, and they only aerate an inch or two down in their little ring of where the water hits. A proper aerator is bubbles on the bottom of the lake that pushes the water from the lowest level in the muck layer up and circulates it around. You want to turn your entire body of water over every 24 hours at least. This will prevent a muck layer from growing on the bottom, which, when exposed to UV light and substantial heat, releases bacteria, algae. It reduces the oxygen content in your lake. So there's a lot of benefits, and I don't think we need to explain all of them right now because I don't think we need to make a decision, but I will give you a better presentation on the full reasons for aeration outside of this meeting. But long story short, it reduces the muck layer, reduces stratification in the lake, makes it a healthier environment for fish. Healthier fish means less algae, less mosquitoes, less other bugs, less smells, that sort of thing, and less need for treatment. because we don't want to treat our lakes with algicides or UV blockers since we pull irrigation water from there. You don't want to put a herbicide into a lake and then spray it all over your plants. So this would prevent any deeper treatments, especially in times of drought like this. But I will give a full presentation via email, and I'll send it to everyone.
I agree with Gary. We haven't needed it for 20 years. Why do we need it now?
Well, let's go ahead.
For 20 years, you just haven't used it. You can chemically treat to make up for this, but if we're in a series like a drought like this, you don't want to use chemicals to treat the algae blooms and the aquatic weeds and that sort of thing. You know, and then pull that little bit of water that you have out for irrigation.
Well, let's go ahead and move this on to another meeting because we're not ready to make any decisions. That's just for general information.
Yeah.
However,
can I ask a question on this?
Is that John?
Maybe it's a kill two birds with one stone. And by the way, I have no idea what I'm asking here, so I'll leave it to Dwayne. But would it be possible to take dirt out of A and use it where he needs it, which would deepen A and give him dirt? Is that a possibility even?
Those lakes may have a membrane in the bottom. So if you try to dig it and you puncture that membrane.
I got you. Okay.
I'm not sure if they do, but
I don't know either.
That's quite possible.
I think it's unlikely that there's a membrane there, but because I mean there isn't a membrane in the lake in E, and you know I don't think that's very common to see that. Yeah, you can dredge material out of one lake and put it, you know, in the other. But you know you have to be careful. There's certain sort of limits. If you go below a certain depth, then you become what they call a deep lake, and then the rules change, and those rules require that you have things like aerators and such. So you know you can do it, but you got to do it, you know, with care.
Just thought.
Right. I do want to jump into something a little bit more.
Deb, one quick question. There's been talk about lowering the pumps in the D Lake.
That's what I was going to go into.
Yeah, we still need some direction from R&R. So right now, I guess our physical pumps themselves are in the lake. You know, there's wires and things running out to a pump location, and that's where the intakes are. They've recommended, and I don't know if it requires a whole new pump or not. They have to come out and give me a full breakdown, and Mike from R&R has been elusive at best because he's very busy. We only get his crew, we don't get him. But he told Chris that we need to put pumps on land and then just have a pipe running into the lake. So right now, it's already been extended and lowered for the intakes have already been done. But they also said you should pull those pumps out, put them on shore, and then just have an intake pipe running out, you know, somewhere into a deeper section of the lake for irrigation, so it doesn't get exposed during times like this.
David, that's been recommended before too.
Yes, I know. It obviously it wasn't done, and I don't know that it's
right.
This is to your point. We've had it for what 20 years, and it hasn't needed to be done yet, but. With this year's record heat and you know moderate lack of rain, it's not it wasn't a drought until recently, but it's been so hot. You probably if you're planning for the future, it may be something to look into. I don't have any solid answers on that. All I know is R&R has recommended it, but I don't know the details yet. I still need them out here for the details.
Okay. Fact finding. So. All right, and then just would you quickly touch on the lakeshore plans and update us on that?
Yeah, right now, after meeting with South Florida Water Management District and lake doctors the other day, we do have adequate coverage for the shoreline of our lakes. I have asked him about different plantings that may be a little bit more visually appealing to the people around the lake. as a lot of people want it to look like a beach, even though it was never meant for that. He's going to give me some options there, but we don't have to add anything. This would be strictly for replacements in certain areas and to add a variety of plants as opposed to just having our one basic, I don't know what it's called. It's not a spike rush, but whatever the tall weeds are that are around the lake as littoral plants. But those are required by South Florida Water Management District around any of our ponds. So we can't remove any more, but we do have an adequate number now.
Good news. Okay. Moving on quickly to new business. At the last meeting, Joe asked Tom Nolan to advise different components of upgrading the town center audio visual. Tom has done that, and Dave, he has a recommendation, right?
Yes, he does. Let me find my paper. I have a lot of papers here.
181681.
Hey, there it is.
Okay.
That's the two new microphones and a new HDMI cable.
Right. Okay.
Can I add something, Deb?
Please.
I talked to the music store yesterday and explained to him one of the things that the technical company was saying we needed was to tune the microphones. He said, I don't know what they're talking about, tune the microphones. He said, you don't tune microphones. And he said, I think it's just a company wanting to get some money from you. Just said.
So, I don't know a whole lot about the details there, but I could tell you the problem that they have in that building is there's hum and and certain feedback and interference in the microphones. They've had this done before. It gets done every couple of years here, and it fixes the problem. So I think maybe tuning the microphone could be a broad term for the actual work that they are doing to eliminate the audio issues that we have when we have our meetings there. If you listen to it online, it's not the clearest audio, and this process, whatever they do, is supposed to clear that up. We might need Tom Nolan or these guys to really explain what that means. I don't know enough about that level of audio to really tell you, but the whole audio team seems to be in agreement that that's the next thing to do, and it's the most important thing to do at this time to get our audio back to a better quality. But I don't know what retuning actually entails.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the price for an HDMI cable, I know everyone's thinking you can buy one of those for $20. Why is it that much? It's running a very, very long HDMI through a big system. It's connecting a couple different pieces of equipment, and you can't have connectors or junctions in that cable, so you have to rerun a whole new wire, because having the connections in there also causes feedback and interference and that sort of thing. So that price actually seems reasonable for what they have to do.
Well, the audiovisual team did what we asked them to do, which was to prioritize and suggest. They are our on-site go-to people, hopefully, that they've done their research and their education. So the recommendation is $1,860 for the upgrades. Do we have any more discussion on it?
Make a motion.
Okay, who was that?
Gary.
Gary, make a motion. Pat,
I make a
second.
motion.
Okay.
Is that coming out of recreation? Is that coming out of recreation?
Yes.
I guess.
Okay, let's go through the vote then, Barb.
I guess.
John?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
And Pat?
Yes.
All righty.
All right, that is basically our full recreation budget for the year between this and the money approved to resurface the shuffleboard courts later on.
Okay, done with that.
So everyone's aware. Yeah.
Okay, under old business, there was a proposal. Pat?
I thought the shuffleboard courts we were taking out of special projects. Are you taking that out of recreation?
I have it out of the reserve. My notes say the reserve.
Why would that be?
It's what the board talked about.
What was the quote?
7,000.
So it's over.
So those are the type of expense. That's what a reserve is for. Specifically, it's things like that get done every 5 to 7 years. So I think the reserve is the perfect place to put it. Although we didn't reserve specifically for it this time, those in the future, I think that should really be planned on every 5 to 7 years. It needs to be done into a reserve. Just my opinion on where it goes from.
The amount the board approved was $9,600, and we were going to do that third quarter in September.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. That's okay.
Thank you. Under old business, we had a request from an owner to look at the lot lighting with yard lights in C section, something that we actually need to look at the total park. So I think this is something that will put a project out to secure pricing, bulk pricing with the facilities committee. And also they can work with Dwayne to see what type of lot lighting is going to be proposed for Laguna, so we can have some consistency and see if this is something that we can entertain next year. So that will be assigned to the facilities committee. Do we have any other new or old business?
New business.
I do, Deb.
Hey, Deb.
New business.
Gary.
Okay, Gary, let's.
I'd like to discuss this C-section lighting. I mean, before we go ahead with all this, do you think the majority of the board wants to look into it? Do they think it's worthwhile?
The facilities.
Well, we're going to have the facilities look into it, Gary.
All right.
And
we got to make sure that they're talking about 100. They're talking about 150 lights. Are the owners on board? How many owners were on board with paying for half of them and doing the installation? This could turn out to be a major project for for Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
I think we have to do a lot of digging into exactly how many people are in favor of this for $12,000, $11,000.
Well, let facilities figure that out.
Yeah, this
fine with me.
Exactly.
Not a Chris job.
Yeah, this, as Dave just said, this is not a Chris job. This is an electrician.
Or the homeowners themselves could do it on their own lot, but Chris couldn't do that type of work.
Right. That's why we were saying have the facilities do the legwork, do the costing, because the first thing the owners are going to ask is what is it going to cost, and so we have to do the legwork first.
Well, and Deb, they also need to check with the residents to see if they even want a lamp in their yard.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, John, you had something?
Yeah, different subject though.
Any more on the sea lighting? Okay. John, did you want to go ahead then?
Yeah, there was a question on YouTube as to when we are going to open up the ice machines.
We are not. That is a situation that it isn't a self-dispensing, and right now there's possibility for cross-contamination due to the scoops, people putting their hands and arms in there. So it's going to have to be get your own ice, at a gas station or something.
Well, I guess you want to hear what we have to say to that?
Sure.
That's always been a concern with that ice maker back there for our residents.
Right.
And it's always been a concern. And the HOA provided a scoop to use back there, and the guidelines to not put any coolers down in it and so forth. And I don't feel like that's any more of a threat right now with COVID than it was even back then when we allowed social committee to have their own ice maker so that they could have clean drinking ice, and that ice maker back there for the residents to use for their coolers or whatever they choose to use it for. So I feel like that ice maker should be back on.
Any more discussion?
I agree with Barb. The only issue is it's locked inside of a building that we still have closed. So we would, for anyone to access that, we would have to turn the locks back on and effectively give people access. And we could say you're only allowed to use the side door for ice, but that would be tough to monitor.
Other input?
You can't make that one lockable, and it's not part of the system.
It gives you access to the whole building.
Right, yeah, you can make that one lockable and leave the front locked, or, but you can just walk in the side door and go play cards in the Omni room or do whatever else you wanted to do. So.
Well, I think it's one of those things where we give the owners and the residents instructions, and they're smart enough to follow the instructions, and if they don't, then shut it off.
Barb, we have a few people who really want the big ice machine to fill ice chests when they go fishing and everything else. Unless we put a door up to lock that area off, I can't see opening it, because you're going to have the town center open. Next thing, the air is going to be set down. We're talking about painting and everything else in there. I think the ideal answer is to replace the ice machine, try to sell this one and replace it with a self-dispensing, and then that solves the whole problem, period.
I am working on that, actually. An ice dispenser, one of those water dispensers like they have at Publix that a lot of people have asked for. So far, all I can find is vending companies that want to put it in on lease, and we don't pay for it, but owners would have some sort of cost to get either ice or water. Which would probably be the same as going to Publix.
But the thing is, unless we put a door into the kitchen that's lockable or secured, it doesn't matter. Either way, they have access to the whole building.
Yeah, we'd have to install it on the outside in the dumpster area, and you don't want your ice across the street from the trash or 10 feet away from your trash.
No.
Just put a gate up in the doorway going to the kitchen.
We have to secure it somehow.
Like a baby gate?
No.
I used to keep my dogs out of the kitchen.
Talk to Bob Casada. He could probably get you a vending machine or tell you where to get a vending machine that'll dispense ice and water.
And give you a carnival
and people pay for it.
Is Casada, is he the one for Southwest Refrigeration?
No.
No.
He's in the carnival biz.
Oh. All right, I'll talk to him.
But I think before we do anything, we should either get a gate or some kind of a door, so we can at least then all they have is access to that area.
That's the simplest way.
Well, let's figure out.
There's literally no door there now.
Nope.
There's a doorway, but there's not a door in it. It just separates sort of the that back entrance hallway from the kitchen. We would have to put a door up
or a gate that you can pull across.
Well,
just past the ice machine.
Why don't we do this?
Could you put up a cheap, inexpensive, wooden door, for temporary?
It's a bigger opening than that, I believe, John.
I can go. I'll go with Chris later on today. We'll measure it and just see what kind of temporary solutions we can come up with, and maybe open that back door. It would have to be at the doorway. You couldn't really block, just past the ice machine.
How about electric fence?
What's that? What's it?
How about electric fence?
Why not?
Crying out loud.
I can hook one of those up very easily with what we have on hand. So if you want that,
David, you might have hit on something there. Just put a divider or a blocker right at the end of the ice maker in that room.
You can't do that, Barb, because of the wall next to it has all of our audio, video, fire equipment and things. Yeah. So anything that runs across the whole way would be blocking you know, or touching that equipment. We can put it up
I
to
just
like
meant a
chest
temporary
level,
thing.
you know, just a piece of
Okay.
wood.
Is this a major problem?
No. Yes, we're gonna let David come up with a solution, and then once he has it, we can decide to open up the ice machine, okay?
I think
Yep.
Pat's electric fence idea is going to be the best.
Okay. Okay, look, do we have any more business to discuss
Yes.
at this time? Joe?
I do have one. There's been a little discussion this morning. I don't know who else got jumped on it, but it's this Bow Stern Marketing Communications.
Uh-huh.
Dwayne raised a point on an email that we should probably, you know, do this in a private conversation, which we can't do. But the idea of more explanation, having been in the printing business and so forth, I know these things take a fair amount of time to work through a process. It is going to take involvement of the park in different groups, and then eventually to vote yay or nay on whatever comes out of this. The price, and I've made some calls, and you know, this company is very well rated for what we're asking for. Was, you know,
What are we asking for?
$4,000, $3,900.
No. I don't. Not what are they asking for? We have to determine what we want to ask for.
Well, but Pat, what I was going to suggest is so that we can keep this ball moving, because it's not going to happen in 30, 60, or 90 days. It's going to take time. It's going to be into the fall, but that at least from the board level at this point, based on the proposal, I would like to put a motion out to at least approve the $3,900. If we don't go ahead, we don't go ahead. But you know, Dwayne wanted to have more of a private conversation, which I don't think we can do. I understand, you know, we have to understand what he's doing, but we got to figure out what we want to do and then blend it, and that's what this guy's going to be capable of. And rather than have to wait and come back 30 days from now, is at least approve the funds. If we don't use them, we don't use them.
I have a
But at
question.
least the
Second
first
Joe's.
step is taken.
Okay,
I'm
Barbie.
not crazy about approving funds for something I don't even know what we're approving for. That's my problem.
Exactly.
They're
And I
pretty-
agree.
You're
And that's
approving
what I'm-
branding.
I didn't propose a private session. What I said was the board meeting this morning wasn't the proper venue because, you know, we don't have 2 hours to talk about this in today's board meeting, which has already run about an hour longer than I had hoped it would.
Yeah.
I would like to suggest that we set aside a separate discussion, and it can be public. I mean, I don't think there's any reason to hide it from anybody, but that it would be, you know, focused on this thing alone, and rather than trying to rush through it in 3 minutes.
Well, no, but Dwayne, I wasn't inserting that you were trying to keep it hidden. I just your email said having a separate phone call after this meeting at some point.
Well, Dwayne's on the phone.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, no, but I
Yeah.
mean, so the point I'm getting at is, I don't think it's an issue of approving it. If we don't want to do it after we have other discussions and people get involved and say, hell no, we haven't spent it.
Then why would we even approve it in the first place,
Then
Joe,
fine,
until
Barb.
we know what we're
I
talking
withdraw the
about?
motion. I withdraw the motion. We'll deal with it
Okay.
when we deal with it.
All
I
right.
have something,
I'm
Deb.
done.
Yes, Barb.
David and I and you and Pat or whatever talked about this over the email. My concern about the bill to Sanders Lab that we have. I'm going to briefly tell you the history of this. It started out to be $1,344 a year. to test our lake water, surface water, and also to test the well water, because that is something that we have to do. We have to do it monthly, and that's what we hired Sanders for. That was $1,344 a year. And then it went to $1,428 a few years later, and then it went to $2,448, and now it's up to $4,000 a year since July of 2018. So I looked into all of the invoices, is what made me start investigating in the first place. And at the time, we had 2 samplings
Just a second, Barb.
from each. What's that noise?
There's a lot of background noise. Someone's got
It's
to
John.
mute their microphone.
John, sorry, I got to
Okay.
mute you again.
Okay, so in the beginning, Deb, we had the 2 samplings from one from each well, and then the 2 samplings from the surface water. That's back when it cost us just the less than $1,500 a year. And then Sanders got up to where they did 2 samplings that they had to send to their lab, and they're $85 a crack. And then now it's up to, we're doing 3 sampling tests in their lab for these withdrawing the water from the well and the surface water. We have to have the test done for both the surface water and the well to ensure that the chlorinate mixture is such that it should be. Not to chlorinate the lakes or the ponds for our irrigation, but that is because of the fact that we had the 2 wells. I talked to Scott Coors at South Florida Water Management. He went through everything with me, gave me the permit numbers that we have for both lakes, and told me, Barb, you do not have to hire a company to test those samples. And our maintenance people, and he gave me the information, and I can give it to David, our maintenance people can draw those samples from the well and the surface water. There's a little test strip, almost like you do with a swimming pool test. It tells you how to test them in the water, and then David sends in that form of the result from that test that we do, and the bottle of test strips, according to Scott, is like $30-some. And you can send that report in based on those test strips from us withdrawing the water. No lab tests need to be done.
Okay, so it sounds like the proposal then is for you to work with David. David will challenge this and see if we need to not use Sanders now and can do it ourselves. But I don't think this is a board discussion. The information is great, but I'm going to ask that you give this to David and he follow it through with a conclusion, okay?
That's exactly what I'd like to do.
All right, sounds good. Excellent, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else have anything for the better of all?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Well, and who's going to second that?
Second.
Me?
Yeah, second.
Everyone, meeting adjourned. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Goodbye.